A special investigation by Annenberg Media reveals new details about the student who stabbed his professor to death and the warning signs at least 2 years before the crime.
A workshop for landlords in Los Angeles aims to make housing more affordable. We'll hear from participants.
A Holocaust survivor shares his story with students. We'll learn about his life and experiences.
Annenberg TV News is next.
Live from USC, you're watching Annenberg TV News.
Something was wrong. He'd really slipped through the cracks.
Tonight we begin with an Annenberg Media special investigation into warning signs before the killing of a professor on campus. The USC community was shocked when a grad student stabbed Professor Bosco Tjan to death in December 2016. Good evening, I'm Leslie Ambris.
And I'm Taylor Edgell, but now Annenberg Media's Cole Sullivan and Sam Burgum have uncovered a history of troubling signs starting 2 years before the crime. Cole Sullivan is here with us now. Cole?
Those signs include a written warning from the student's doctor to Professor Tjan and USC. David Jonathan Brown took a medical leave, but he was back on campus only a semester later. For the first time tonight, we have details of the warning signs leading up to the killing. By all accounts, he was a gifted researcher.
First, he was brilliant.
A beloved colleague.
He was the sweetest, nicest guy.
And a dear friend to his USC colleague, Professor Irving Biederman, and many others on campus.
He was such a good friend. It's so unfair.
Professor Bosco Tjan was killed by one of his own students. It happened the last day of classes of the fall 2016 semester at his lab in the Seelig Mud building.
Why you would do it in the first place, and it defines craziness.
David Jonathan Brown was charged with murder and found not guilty by reason of insanity. He was sent to a state mental facility.
The court recommends placement at Patton State Hospital.
But an Annenberg Media special investigation has uncovered warning signs more than a year before the crime that Brown might do something like this to Bosco Tjan. Our investigation goes back to December 2014, when, according to search warrants, another grad student working in Tjan's lab began getting emails from Brown describing manic episodes. It's not clear who she told at the time. The LAPD detective working the case since the night of the stabbing says it's safe to say the university was made aware of mental health issues with Brown around December 2014. Then, in June 2015, USC's Department of Public Safety got a report that Brown caused a disturbance in Tjan's lab. A record of the incident says a student was cited to USC Judicial Affairs for intentionally damaging property inside a lab. Then, a week later, a more serious warning from Brown's psychiatrist to Professor Tjan. David Brown made a serious threat against your life. Annenberg Media has reviewed that written warning, which was also sent to DPS and shared with the university's threat assessment team. Former DPS officer Johnny Adams was part of that group. He says team members told Tjan they had concerns about Brown, but Tjan didn't think the threat was serious. In a statement, USC says it persuaded David Brown to take a leave of absence. Adams told us the threat assessment team got Brown to go home to Connecticut and seek medical treatment. The LAPD says Brown took a leave for the fall 2015 semester. USC told us it took considerable action to ensure the safety of Professor Tjan, including extra patrols around Tjan's lab, restricting Brown's access to campus, and alerting DPS officers.
David's delusion was very complex.
Brown's public defender says his client has a severe mental illness.
He thought a lot of the students at USC were just hired actors. They weren't really students. He thought the doctors in the neuropsych department were all conspiring against him and were actually doing human experiments on not only him but other students. He thought that Bosco was the ringleader of this whole thing.
In 2016, Brown came back for the spring semester and continued his work with Professor Tjan. Despite what the LAPD describes as a long history of threats made by David Brown against the victim, detectives say he was Jean's TA. USC says Jean advocated for Brown's return to the lab, and Brown's attorney says Jean wanted him back in the program.
He's the one who he wanted to take him back, and he was his biggest advocate, and they were friends.
USC told us there were no incidents after Brown's return, but a DPS sergeant told us when Brown came back, there really wasn't a system in place to make sure he was all right to come back. The day before the crime, Dr. Biederman says Brown and Jean were in the same room, only 1 seat apart.
There was a student between Bosco and David Brown, but David Brown was there, and had I known about the threats, I would have, gotten closer or something, or put myself in between.
The next evening, 17 months to the day from the written warning that Brown made a serious threat against Jean's life, he stabbed him to death. A search warrant says Jean's colleague heard yelling and left her office down the hall. She saw Brown standing over Jean's body, shouting, "You have been torturing me for years. I have finally had enough."
David Jonathan Brown is at Patton State Hospital, where he could spend the rest of his life. Since Jean's death, USC has reorganized its Threat Assessment Office. DPS tells us they have a better system for tracking threats to make sure people, quote, don't fall through the cracks. Critical to that system is USC's Threat Assessment Officer, Patrick Prince. Part of his job is to make sure that another tragedy like this one doesn't happen again.
It's my overall goal and overarching, really mission. How do we identify vulnerability? How do we get involved early in the process? And then how do we manage it or mitigate that risk over the long run? And that's what I do.
What about those instances when no one saw it coming?
They don't exist. And no one ever just snaps. There's always this pathway, this build-up. Everybody who hurt somebody acted in a threatening manner. They did things that were discomforting, whether they created fear or discomfort or illness of ease, whatever we want to call it. People knew something was wrong. That's when I want to get involved. But most of all, I just want to make sure everyone here goes home every day. I want students to come here and grow. I don't mind weird. I don't mind different. I don't accept threatening and dangerous.
To report threatening behavior, you can call 911 or the DPS emergency line at 213-740-4321. If you or someone you know is suffering from mental illness, help is available. The number for the 24-hour crisis line at the health center is 213-740-7711. We've posted our full interview with Patrick Prince on our website, uscannenbergmedia.com. That's where you can also find more details of our investigation. Leslie and Taylor, back to you.
A cinema school student speaks out about mental health support on campus. We'll hear from him and the university.
A workshop designed to address the homeless crisis in Los Angeles was held today. We'll take you there.
Doctors and community members demand the state take action to curb emissions from oil wells within the city. We'll be right back.
Guess what? I have some news for you. There's free food right there, junk food. You see that truck? Oh, jeez. It's a 2 Michelin star chef. All for free, ladies and gentlemen. All for free.
Here we have a panzanella with summer vegetables and pesto. Enjoy. Okay. How we doing?
Fantastic. So what do you got going on underneath that plate there?
This food is really about to be thrown away.
Yeah. For real?
Is there something wrong with this food? Where did you get it from?
From farmers markets. They put aside the ugly vegetables and the ugly fruits.
Carrot top, soft avocados. It was all food that was going to be discarded.
Even the drink you had is made from like a little bruised peach. Did it taste a little bruised?
Great. That was good.
The average person throws away 24 pounds of food a month.
That's a lot.
Isn't that a lot? Go visit savethefood.com for more information. Thank you. Junk food time!
Adventure can be found anywhere, but the best place to start is in the forest.
I spy something beginning with S.
Snow.
No.
Snow-covered trees.
Nothing to do with snow. Head outside to discover incredible animals and beautiful plants that come together to create an unforgettable adventure.
Wow.
So grab your loved ones. Don't even. And explore a world of possibilities.
Come on, this way.
Visit discovertheforest.org to find the closest forest or park to you.
A USC student says the School of Cinematic Arts is not doing enough for students dealing with mental health issues. He wants SCA to provide its own counselors.
I would like to have counselors at SCA who are specialized, I guess, or at least just knowledgeable or have dealt with problems working in that particular industry themselves, so that when they provide counseling service, they actually know the problems you're facing and are extremely familiar with them.
Associate Dean Kristen Borella says that SCA's small class sizes allow faculty to get to know their students and spot signs of trouble.
They notice that there is a concern or possible problem that is developing. The faculty is works very quickly to connect our students with the services at the Engelman Student Counseling Center.
On Monday, the School of Cinematic Arts is hosting a mental health forum open to students and faculty. It will take place in room 106 of the SCI building across from the Lion Center. Housing authorities in Los Angeles held a workshop today to tell landlords about the benefits available if they provide housing to homeless people. Annenberg Media's Sonica Bargo shows us how the city is helping landlords get involved.
Ken Downing has been a landlord in LA for 30 years. He started working with programs like the Homeless Incentive Program, or HIP, to provide housing to LA's homeless.
I get the satisfaction that I'm actually helping people and making a difference in the lives of people that need help.
Downing joined several housing authorities and LA County Supervisor Sheila Kuhl at a workshop today in Santa Monica.
We want to convince landlords this is a good way to fill your empty units, good for business, good for the heart, and certainly good for the homeless.
The goal is to educate landlords about benefits they can get from the county to help house the homeless.
We offer holding fees, security deposit, utility deposit assistance, as well as furnishings.
Members of the LA City Housing Authority handed out materials to get landlords involved. Some booths had forms for landlords to list their vacancies.
It's sort of a way to get them in the loop and try to get them on board.
Landlords who participate in initiatives like HIP get several incentives to house homeless tenants, including guaranteed rent payments. Kuhl says she hopes these kinds of events will also help educate people about the homeless.
There are some very negative and erroneous concepts about who the homeless are. Each of us is really only one paycheck away from homelessness.
She hopes more landlords will see housing the homeless as a win-win situation. For Annenberg Media, I'm Sonica Bargo.
Local advocacy groups and community members met at Parker Center in downtown Los Angeles today to discuss why it should be turned into housing for the homeless. The former LAPD headquarters is set to be torn down and turned into office space, but the Coalition to Preserve LA says it should be turned into permanent housing for the homeless. They say the city is not using more than 200 vacant buildings that could help the growing homeless population.
There are 200 underutilized city buildings in Los Angeles, and we can't get the list. They will not release the list. They keep saying, we don't know, it's in several different departments, there's no one list. That can't be true. They have to pay taxes on their land. They know where the empty units are. They know where the empty buildings are. Get with it. Admit it. Stop being so non-transparent. Stop lying about it.
The coalition says the city has not built any affordable housing units since Measure HHH was passed 17 months ago. The measure was designed to develop permanent housing for the homeless. Speaker of the House Paul Ryan announced today he will not seek re-election in his Wisconsin congressional district for the midterm election this fall.
I did not seek this job. I took it reluctantly, but I have given this job everything that I have. And I have no regrets whatsoever for having accepted this responsibility.
Ryan was elected Speaker in 2015 and was a Republican vice presidential candidate in 2012. He has said he will not seek higher office in the future. The 2018 midterm elections will be held on November 6th.
Mark Zuckerberg faced a much tougher crowd on the House side of Capitol Hill today. Lawmakers repeatedly interrupted Facebook's CEO and grilled him for not answering questions to their satisfaction.
Is it true that Facebook offered to provide what I guess you refer to as dedicated campaign embeds to both of the presidential campaigns?
Congressman, I can quickly respond to the first point, too.
Just say yes or no. Were there embeds? I need to get to that because I don't have time. Were there embeds in the two campaigns or offers of embeds?
Congressman,
yes or no?
Zuckerberg testified for about 6 hours in front of the House Energy and Commerce Committee. In his opening remarks, he took the blame for Facebook's involvement in the Cambridge Analytica scandal, but also said he believes in a positive future for the social network.
We didn't take a broad enough view of our responsibility, and that was a big mistake. It was my mistake, and I'm sorry. I believe deeply in what we're doing. And I know that when we address these challenges, we'll look back and view helping people connect and giving more people a voice as a positive force in the world.
Today was Zuckerberg's second and final day of congressional testimony. Wall Street liked his performance, and Facebook regained more than $25 billion in market value. Still, the company's stock is 10% lower than where it was before the scandal broke.
750 public interest groups in California are threatening to derail the Climate Action Summit 5 months from now in San Francisco. They're outraged over the continued oil drilling throughout the state. Some residents in areas like Wilmington claim the oil drilling is harming their health. They're urging the governor to stop giving permits for oil and gas extraction.
Despite your race, your income, and your education, you deserve a healthy neighborhood. You deserve a place where you can thrive. And in our neighborhoods, we don't have that. We need to make sure that we're making the switches to alternative energy. We've seen other countries do it, other cities do it. We've seen Dallas do it, in making sure that oil drilling isn't in close proximity to people.
California Governor Jerry Brown's office issued this response, quote, "Threatening to sabotage a climate summit aimed at mobilizing world leaders to push beyond the Paris Agreement is a curious way to fight climate change," end quote. The protesters say they have put the governor on notice, but at this point it is still unclear if the Global Climate Action Summit will be affected by the complaints. And here at USC, it's been super hot. I feel like the summer has already begun. It's only April.
I know, definitely, Leslie. But is this hot weather around to stay? Let's go to our weather anchor, Trevor, for our forecast. Trevor?
Well, guys, the hot days may be behind us, but it's only going to get warmer as we get closer to summer. If we take a look at our current conditions right now, it's cool outside, 66 degrees, and it's just because we're getting into the evening. Expect warmer temperatures tomorrow, which let's look at right now. As you can see, up in the mountains in Big Bear, it's going to be 41 degrees, in the IE 71 degrees. So again, upper 60s, mid 70s throughout that area. Moving up on the coast, as you can see in the valley, 66 degrees, coast 64 degrees. But again, upper 60s, 70s for your middle areas. Now down the LA Basin, 70 degrees at USC, 74 in Anaheim. And again, across the region, as you can see, upper 60s, 70s throughout that area. Now into your 5-day forecast. We have a lot of winds tomorrow. As you can see, you're going to see speeds up to possibly even 30 miles per hour here in the downtown LA area. And it's going to get warmer into the weekend, 83 degrees on Saturday, and then going to cool down into next week into about 70 degrees on Monday or so. Now, many of us understand heat waves on land. A recent study, however, found that marine heat waves, or those over the ocean, can be even more deadly. As shown in the map here, the ocean heat content in 2017 was the highest on record. Surface temperatures of the Pacific Ocean are 5 to 6 degrees above normal. These hotspots are only becoming longer and more frequent. One ocean climate expert explained the effects of these waves.
In the tropics, an increase in temperature of just 2 degrees Celsius is enough to cause coral bleaching and corals to die if that's maintained over a period of weeks. And that's what we're talking about in these marine heat waves. They're not instantaneous events. They last for some time.
On the bright side, Aiken told me, as long as we can reduce global warming, our oceans will be saved as well. Back to you two.
Thanks, Trevor. Yom Hashoah, also known as Holocaust Remembrance Day, begins at sundown. Annenberg Media's Eitan Wallace caught up with a Holocaust survivor who went through 3 concentration camps. And it looks like the Lakers and the Clippers are playing later.
They are
on, right,
indeed.
Lauren? Tell us more about that.
You're right. Actually, tonight is the last day of the 2017-18 NBA regular season. The Clippers and Lakers do get to battle it out one last time. Also, the Los Angeles Kings kick off the NHL playoffs at 7 p.m. tonight in Game 1 versus the Vegas Golden Knights. But we're going to talk about USC sports now, starting with spring football. How is it already over? And Victoria is going to break down some lacrosse action before the women of Troy take on SDSU in their last homestand. Sports is back in 90 seconds.
Fancy pants peanut butter? A big screen television? You haven't even bought a sofa yet. A motorcycle? When your father finds out, he's gonna flip his shoes with 2 buckles? What do you even need 2 buckles for? Mr. Big Shot, buying whiskey shots for everybody in the bar. From the looks of it, I'd say nobody even remembers. Feed the pig.
Did you know parking over tall, dry grass can spark a wildfire?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but 13 spring football practices have come and gone. All that remains is one practice tomorrow and the spring showcase on Saturday. Coach,
defense wins championships, and right now our defense is really leading our football team, and they're doing a really nice job, and that's going to be really going to be important for us, especially early. You know, with a younger quarterback, you're going to have to lean on those defense, and they may have to get us out of some tough situations.
the defense has certainly been a shining star. Outside linebacker Porter Gustin has been a welcome return after last season's injury. His intensity, talent, size, and even his practice attire certainly make his presence on the field known. He shared what his unit has been working on this spring ball.
You know, just gelling together as a team and really getting more snaps and getting, you know, younger guys involved, and some of the guys that didn't play as much last year, more reps, and really involved with that, you know, that older core of our defense.
Coliseum construction, the classic USC spring game, can't be held there. So the Trojans will close out spring ball with a spring showcase on Cromwell Field on Saturday. Now the 20th ranked USC women's lacrosse team only has 2 regular season games left. We're going to toss it over to sports correspondent Victoria Garrick to tell us more.
Thanks, Lauren. Well, the women's lacrosse team has had a rocky season this spring. Having lost their past 3 games, the team is now 5-4 in conference play and 7-7 overall. But despite those losses, the team went right back to work this week, and their top point scorer, sophomore Kerrigan Miller, told me they are only looking forward.
We know we're not done with our season yet, and we want a different outcome for the ending. So we're just grinding in practice and taking care of the little things, getting back to the basics. And I just think this is a point of our season where we're down, and how we respond in these next few games will be huge.
Miller and the team will be facing San Diego State this Friday and Arizona State the following week to close out the regular season. But with SDSU, it's a coincidence because when looking at the similar teams they both faced, they've actually both beaten Cal and Arizona State and lost to Boulder and Boston College. So it's going to be a battle on McAllister Field this Friday at 3 p.m. as the Trojans try to turn things around before the Pac-12 championships. Back to you, Lauren.
Thank you so much, Victoria.
Are you going to be hitting that game up?
Oh, for sure. I'm so excited.
I've never seen one of the women's lacrosse games.
It's actually the fastest game on land.
Really?
Exciting.
Thanks so much, Lauren and Victoria.
Thank you. A Holocaust survivor spoke on the evening of Holocaust Remembrance Day.
We'll learn about his life and story next.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation.
America, let's do lunch.
Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
迷惑ボーイ。
ここはなんとかしなくちゃ。
スーパーカインドの交通機関案内。
When you ride on the bus or rail, don't eat popcorn, meat, or kale. Food can smell and it makes a mess. Keep LA Metro clean and fresh. Come along with me, let's go. It's time to ride on the Metro. When eating food causes problems, you know Superkind will be there to solve them. Come along with me, let's go. It's time to ride on the Metro. When eating food causes problems, you know Superkind will be there to solve them.
And now that story you heard earlier, we're going to enter it now. Yom Hashoah, also known as Holocaust Remembrance Day, begins at sundown. Annenberg Media's Eitan Wallace caught up with a Holocaust survivor who went through 3 concentration camps.
Bill Harvey survived the Holocaust.
The torture and the beating and the killing that I had witnessed and that I lived through, it's unbelievable for a human being to imagine.
Born William Herskovitz in Czechoslovakia, he spent 2 years in concentration camps, including Auschwitz and Buchenwald.
I was so sick that I couldn't even stand up on my feet.
But he pulled through. Today marks the 73rd anniversary of his liberation from Buchenwald. Harvey spends much of his time sharing his story. This afternoon, he spoke with law students at Loyola Law School. Ryan Snyder helped organize the event.
It's really important to have the Holocaust survivors tell their story now, because for future generations to really understand the fact that this was true.
Wherever Harvey speaks, he always brings these pictures of his relatives. His mother Zali perished in the gas chambers.
She's the one who I always thanked about when I wanted to give up.
But Harvey never gave up, and today he has 2 children and 4 grandchildren.
Has the world learned from the Holocaust?
No, the world definitely not learned.
Which is why Harvey says he'll continue sharing his story, especially on this day, the eve of Yom Hashoah, Holocaust Remembrance Day.
To teach people not to stay silent is the most important thing.
Hoping never again truly means never again. Annenberg Media at Loyola Law School. I'm Eitan Wallace.
Wow, what an incredible story. 73 years.
Yeah, it's really great that he gets to tell his story to all these people and let them share in that experience.
It's important, yeah.
So inspiring.
Yeah. Did you guys learn a lot about the Holocaust in high school and so on?
Yeah, I'd say so, but I
can always learn more.
Yeah, definitely more
Always
talk.
an opportunity to learn.
Awesome. Thanks so much for watching Annenberg TV News. From everyone here at Annenberg Media, I'm Taylor Edgell.
And I'm Leslie Ambrose. You can watch us on the web at uscannenbergmedia.com. Good night.